And action. Welcome to another amazing episode of the Action Podcast. We are on episode 69, and today we're talking about Disney's Haunted Mansion, which is based off of the ride. And then we're also going to talk about Talk to Me, which is a kind of an indie horror film. And yeah, so with that, Pete.
Yeah, there's an interesting sort of backstory that I don't have the whole picture of it, but just a snippet of it, and that alone is very interesting.
Yeah, we'll discuss that when we talk about it. Let's get into Haunted Mansion. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts on this. First, before we get into Haunted Mansion, did you see the original with Eddie Murphy or no?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Directed by the great Rob Minkoff. Of course, I saw it.
Great. Okay, great. I actually did my research before. I wanted to make sure we had a comparison of the two. And so I checked that out this week. It's on Disney Plus, if you didn't figure that out already, fans. But so what were your thoughts?
I always get nervous when Disney movies come out nowadays, especially when they're live action, especially when they're sort of, this one isn't a remake, necessarily of the Rob Minkoff film. But it has the same name, so you're always like, oh boy, like what are we gonna watch now? But I was pleasantly surprised in this film. I enjoyed the journey. I enjoyed the story. I thought like Keith Stanfield was good. I mean, he's always good. He's an up and comer. I know he's been around for a little bit of time, but I mean, he just keeps doing films and just keeps elevating himself. I thought Rosario Dawson was good. Owen Wilson is your classic Owen Wilson, and I'm glad that he was in this film because that character needed an Owen Wilson. I thought that was perfectly casted.
But you know what I liked about Owen Wilson's character too was, like, to kind of to your point, he was able to kind of be himself and be the classic kind of Owen Wilson and throw in some one-liners and stuff like that without kind of the pressure of like carrying the movie. Like every time he came in, it's just like he'd come in, pinch hit a double, walk off. He would get on base every single at bat. And I really enjoyed that. Again, he didn't have like a huge role in terms of like, character weight. You know what I mean? But I'm glad because like, the biggest difference between this one and the Rob Minkoff one was the first one was obviously Eddie Murphy, right? And Eddie Murphy almost at the end, I don't want to say the end of his prime, but you know what I mean? You're in the peak of Eddie Murphy and him doing a lot of Disney movies and all those remakes.
Yeah, that movie came out, on the other side of his career.
Yeah. And this is when he's
doing nicely.
Yeah, that's when he started to do all the family films, though, like the Clumps and Nutty Professor, all that good stuff.
Right.
And so that was, again, Eddie Murphy centric. This one, I felt like the comedy was spread out with between him and Danny DeVito. Danny DeVito, I thought, also kind of crushed in this too.
Yeah, and he played a little bit of a different role for him. I mean, it's tough for Danny DeVito to play anything different, but his character was so zany. He was zany and really off the wall. And when he was on screen for that little bit of time, I mean, he crushed. He did a great job. Jamie Lee Curtis is also in this, fresh off of her Academy Award. I thought she was fine. She plays the head inside of the
Madame Ziota.
Yeah, inside of the magic crystal ball. And then I found out that Jared Leto is in it, or Leto is in it. And I didn't even recognize him. He played the sort of the ghost, the villain. But you can't even tell it's him. It's almost like
it's all CGI, of course.
Yeah, but it didn't even sound like him either. At least it was sort of the same way I felt after I saw the Batman with Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Like, I found out afterwards that was him, and I looked to see who played the bad guy, and I'm like, Jared Leto, really? I had zero clue. It just doesn't look like him, doesn't sound like him. It's CGI, so how would you know? But that character's fine. I mean, it's a good story, and the thing I liked about this film was that they really used every moment that you see or experience in the ride at Disneyland. You've got the actual photos are the same. Like the woman who's the cat that turns into the Catwoman,
That
the
was cool.
floating
They do,
candles.
they do it
Um,
seamlessly, though. You know what I mean?
yeah, Tiffany Haddish's character, she plays the psychic or medium.
Yeah,
Uh, and she sits in this, like in the seance, she sits in one of the chairs like with a big round back, like you do
yeah,
in the
on the
ride. And
ride.
when it starts spinning and moving backwards, it
Yeah,
reminds you of the ride.
that was
They got the
awesome.
hacking ghosts, they got the clock hands spinning backwards, the stretching walls at the beginning when you enter.
Yeah,
uh, Even the ghosts flying around the cemetery in the end are exactly like that one moment in
yeah.
and the dancing ghosts in the ballroom at the very end. So they really do take
And
every
the
single,
guys that are asking for the ride.
yeah, the hitchhikers. So the only thing they didn't do, which I thought they were going to do at the very, very end, you know, when you're leaving the ride and there's that woman who's just like, yeah, come back and
Yeah,
the next time and blah blah blah. Like you
yeah.
just hear her voice as you're exiting the ride. Like I really missed that.
Yeah,
Nitpicking stuff, of course, but
totally. I have a
it's
question.
the one thing that they didn't put in from the ride.
I have a question based off of the original as well. In the original they had the singing guys, and that was like a nice touch in the first one. Was
I
that
love
in
that.
the ride? That was in the ride, wasn't it? Or no?
Yes, they're in the graveyard on the
That's what
ride
I thought.
itself.
Okay. That's
Now
what I
the
thought.
difference between the two is that the Eddie Murphy one is centered around the family, and Eddie Murphy is and his
Really?
wife are like real estate
Yeah.
people, and it's based on them going and visiting a house that they want to help sell, and then it turns into an
Yeah.
adventure. This one was done a little bit differently, and I was happy that they didn't copy the other one. This one is, Rosario Dawson and her son. I think they bought a house because they wanted to make a bread and breakfast, a
Yeah.
bed and breakfast. And then they bring in the Keith Stanfield, who invented he's like an astrophysicist or something, and he invents a camera that can capture ghosts
Don't
on film.
just don't give away. There is some key parts to that story that
Okay, but I'm just setting it up. It's called
yeah,
the
yeah,
setup.
yeah. Just on his story, just don't
Yeah,
spoil.
yeah, no, I'm not gonna mention anything like that. But he's a very powerful actor, and he's like one of those people. Like we've talked about specific actors in the past couple of podcasts over the past few weeks that you just feel things just from their eyes alone, and he's just one of these actors that when he's sad, you feel it. And when he's happy, you feel it. And when he's having fun, you feel it. He's magnetizing.
Yeah,
I thought his performance was really great. Different look for him with his big giant dreads, but
yeah.
great performance on his part. And it's a fun movie. I think I would be wary of how young your kids are. There are some
Well,
frightening.
It's PG-13.
Yeah, I know, but PG-13, you can kind of get away sometimes with having kids. Like my daughter, for example, seen the Harry Potter movies. Like
Right.
those are fairly scary at moments, right? I think I would let her see this one.
She's old enough.
Although I might regret it slightly, but I think she would enjoy it. But just be wary. I would make sure you check first on whether or not
Yeah.
you should take your kids to this one. But
Yeah.
good. It only got a 6.1 on IMDb, which I thought was slightly low. I thought it was a little bit better than that. But what are you going to do? It's Disney.
Yeah, I think one, kind of know what you're watching, right? This is not going to win any Oscars for what it is. This is a very, like, you should know what you're getting into. But I agree with your point. This was definitely a pleasant surprise. One of the better Disney live action films I've seen, where I can literally just went in and just had a good time. You already mentioned Lakeith Steinfeld, but he adds a real dramatic dimension to this film that just absolutely worked. And his storyline and performance, there's a scene where he has where I mean, if I didn't tear up, I was definitely on the verge of it, but it was very, very emotional. And so this movie was definitely deeper than the original. I think all the characters had a deeper connection compared to the original. The original was more of again, kind of just an Eddie Murphy, let's combine Eddie Murphy with Disney, and we're gonna go from there. And a lot of people liked it, some people didn't. I enjoyed the original. I do think this one is, again, just a better complete film than the original. I think it's just tighter, and I think we talked about this in another of the podcasts, but films today, I feel, because of like the pandemic and other factors, is there, and I think there's more opportunity, but the scripts are tighter now. They're not, people aren't just throwing out movies like they started to do during that original time period, where it's just like, we're just trying to make a buck. This one, I don't even know if this one's going to make its money back, but this one just felt like they spent more time on it, and it's tighter in so many different avenues.
Well, yeah, and there also wasn't anything behind it. Like there was nothing kind of, it didn't have that pressure of, like when The Little Mermaid came out. I mean, there was just months and months and months of press and advertising and build up to that film. I didn't really see or hear a lot about this film except that it was coming out. I didn't really know anything about who was in it. Who produced it other than Disney, obviously, but who was actually working on the film itself. So I think it came in under the radar a little bit, and I think that worked in its advantage a little bit, because I didn't go into it with any sort of expectations other than my normal, it's a Disney live action, what am I going to see? You know what I mean? But other than that, that's why I was pleasantly surprised by it. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely great for the family, and go and see it. If you don't have a family, I think you would have a good time with it. It's a good, well-paced story.
Yeah.
And I think it doesn't, I mean, it's hard to make a movie about ghosts without CGI, right? But I don't think that it leaned on it and used it as its main point. Like, we have to make this film with CGI or else. I mean, there's some real story in this film.
Yeah.
And it's used when it needs to be used, obviously.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say about it.
Yeah. I to your point, I don't think this movie is going to be for everybody just because of the topic. This is I think hardcore like horror fans may just not dig the vibe, because it's not Insidious or any of those Saw, or like, it's not these hardcore horrors. This is again like a Disney horror. But it's definitely got some creepy moments to it. I think the biggest mistake that this film made was timing, in terms of like, this is a Halloween film, and not only is this released towards the tail end of summer, but it's also a week after Barbie. You're like, even before we knew Barbie was going to be a hit, it's still like it's stacked up against so many other tent poles. You already released Indiana Jones earlier in the summer, a little bit of overlap demographic wise. Mission Impossible is still here, and then of course Oppenheimer and Barbie. I don't understand why they would release it. And then next week they have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it just feels like, one, again, because of the topic, put it around Halloween. That just seems more appropriate. And then I don't know. I don't feel like it gave itself much of a chance to do it. It scored.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's a good point. I mean, it's putting out a movie at a specific time. I mean, I've experienced that. When you put something out in between something, it's like, why would you do that? You're surrounded by giant IPs, and then you're going to have your smaller film come out. And, even though it's a Disney film, it's supposed to be a big film. You're still surrounded by these major blockbusters from the summer, right? Yeah. So, yeah, I get it.
And then, so we actually do have the numbers in at the time of this recording, and, it made 20 just under 25 million domestically, 33 worldwide. I don't believe it's been released that much worldwide yet, but still, for a $150 million film, it's just going to be tough. But again, like, blame yourself. Like, why are you releasing it now? And you tell me you can't pivot and move it back. Like, hey guys, we got Barbie coming up. Like, I don't know if it's an ego thing. I know logistically you can.
No, they probably they probably figured it wouldn't matter in the long run, because they're going to put it on their streaming service either way, and it'll just be a part of that, and whatever. That's what they do.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I read this earlier, but I know part of the allure of this movie is it will drum up interest into the theme park. Like, I know for myself, it's like, oh man, I kind of want to ride the ride again. Like, because like you're saying, there's so many elements that it combine that it made me feel like I'm on the ride.
Yeah.
So yeah, overall, like I said, I'd say if you are into this type of Disney film, I think go see it. Um, I thought it worked. So yeah.
Yeah.
Next we have Talk to Me. And this is a film written and directed by two YouTube stars. I don't know how to pronounce
Yeah.
names, but Pete, I'll let you.
Danny and Michael
Yeah.
Philippo,
And
something
this guy,
like that. But I have a feeling we're going to hear about him again because
yeah,
what a story. Like these guys are just they made these little short films online. I've never seen any of them. I never heard anything about these guys. And they made this film, Talk to Me. And I believe it was released or made in Australia because in the credits it's all like Australian this, Australian that. But this stars the only one that you would really recognize is Miranda Otto, and she played Eowyn in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. You would recognize her face if you're fans of those films, which I am. But the main star, this girl, her name is Sophia Wilde. She plays the character Mia. This girl's going to be a star. I have a feeling about it. She is amazing. Her performances are next level. The rest of the cast, I mean, they're just a bunch of kids, and it's probably their first film ever, and you can tell this girl seems like a seasoned professional. I mean, you felt everything that she was going through, and she goes through a lot. So the gist of this film is that group of kids, this girl Mia, her mother has passed on, allegedly committed suicide. She's just not absolutely sure yet. Her friends have this hand, this embalmed hand that you hold on to it and you light a candle and you say, talk to me. And then you immediately see a ghost in front of you, although the ghost looks horrifying, of course. And then when you say, I let you in, then the spirit goes inside of you and you experience it for like 90 seconds, I guess is the limit that you're allowed to do this. And then they release you of it. And then everyone tries it, and it's done at parties, basically. So it becomes like this, almost like a high for these kids. And so they keep doing this over and over again, seeing all these different passed on spirits, etc. Until obviously one of the people holds on for too long, longer than the 90 seconds. And then that spirit is now in them. And then the story begins with horrifying and terrifying supernatural things happening. Nothing like major jump scary, and there is some, like, not gore, but I mean there are some really intense bloody moments, but nothing that is just like, it's not like Saw where they just do stuff that's ridiculous. This was a really well crafted film, great story. Like I said, this girl Sophia Wilde is just amazing. If you like these kinds of films, which I do, I recommend it. I just found out about this movie like 2 days ago, and I watched it last night, and it was well worth it. I was so happy I heard about this film. Talk
yeah,
to Me. It needs more people to go see it because it's really well done.
yeah. As of the recording, had a $4.5 million production budget and made 10 in the United States alone. So that's what we call a success. So, like you're saying, these guys will get another movie deal, especially with that kind of turnaround. So I can imagine it probably pulling in at least 20 to 30 million, which again on just go $5 million budget, like that's a huge home run.
And you can see how they were able to produce this for 5 million. I mean, the cast, they probably paid them scale, right? And then, but they really, really worked themselves. They
No
only have a
cost.
couple of settings. So it's not like they needed a whole bunch of like locations. So man, you can do it, guys. You can make a movie for 5 million.
Yeah, you can
It
make
can be done. And it's all
absolutely
makeup too. There's no CGI or anything like that. So it's really well done. Great film. Go see it.
awesome. Well, that's gonna wrap us up for this episode. Next episode, well, we got two. So we'll be having our classic episode, Rocky 4, will be coming out at the end of this week. And then on the new movie front, we have a couple films coming out. The major one is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem, which is an animated film. And that is ultimately produced by Seth Rogen, Evan Goldberg. He's also going to be a voice in it. Ice Cube, John Cena, among others, Jackie Chan. And so that one looks very kind of into the Spider-Verse type of a film. So this could kind of launch a new, series here for the Ninja Turtles.
A new phase in that franchise.
Yeah. And then secondly, we have Meg 2, which stars Jason Statham. That's basically about a kind of a prehistoric shark.
A megalodon.
Yeah. And then
did you see the first one?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, I saw it the other day because I never saw it before. It's your standard crazy high budgeted shark movie.
Yeah. And then on Apple TV Plus, you can actually watch it now. We just have not reviewed it yet, but it's on now. It's The Beanie Bubble. It stars Zach Galifianakis, Elizabeth Banks, Sarah Snook of Succession fame. The movie's written and co-directed by actually she co-wrote and co-directed by Kristen Gore. She was an SNL writer. But yeah, Pete's already started it. He says he likes it so far.
I've started. Yeah, I'm halfway through, and so far it's really good. And Zach Galifianakis plays a character that you would believe he would do, but it's also not like anything he's really ever done before. No beard.
Yeah.
A clean-shaven Zach Galifianakis, which I've never seen before, so it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, so if you want to check that out, you can go ahead and start that, and we'll be reviewing that again on the next episode. So with that, Pete, just make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Help us grow. We're slowly growing, but we need your help. Please keep supporting us. We'll keep putting out good content for you. And with that, Pete, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.